It's part 18 of the Great Farm Cleanup, and we're back at the farm. We're a little bit earlier than planned. I wasn't going to come back until next week, but we did have a bit of a glitch. Dad hasn't been well for quite some time, and he's taken a bit of a turn, and he's actually in hospital at the moment. He's had prostate cancer for many years, and it's been quite well managed, but this year he's gone downhill a bit. He's now 84, and the cancer's got into his bones, so things aren't going really well there. But yeah, he's been pretty good, and he's been managing it okay, and we've been coming across roughly each month or so, as many of you will know, and things have been going okay, but he's gone downhill a bit lately, and he may have to go into more care. So the family have come back this week, and we've been really getting into it. We've been cutting a lot of firewood, we've been continuing the cleanup. So I'm going to continue this series with this episode, and we'll get some more stuff in the van. We'll take you down to the firewood pile because there was a lot of activity there yesterday. We'll go back up and see Dad today. He's in a hospital nearby, and he's in pretty good spirits, all things considered. So let's have a walk around and see what we can do at the farm this week. It rained overnight. It's quite wet. The land is really green. We're in late winter here, so it's a great time of the year to look at this property. There's some sheep out in the paddocks. All the farm wildlife, well, not too wild, they're chickens or chooks, they're waking up. Coco's running around here somewhere checking out things. So let's have a walk around, and we've got a few things to do over the next couple of days, so I'll make a couple of parts of this series while we're here this week. Coco's are running around checking things out and saying good morning to the sheep. She'd love to get out to chase them, but I don't know how she'd go. She's not allowed to. These are Ross's sheep. Ross is the new owner of the property, and he's been stocking a lot of sheep here, and he's been, I think he is looking pretty good for his crops. You can see how green it looks. So our task is basically to get the yard cleaned up and then gradually clean out the house and the sheds. Now, given that Dad's probably not going to use any of this equipment anymore, we have sold off a lot of the machinery, but it's getting close to the time to actually sell the tractors off, clear out the sheds properly. I'm not sure if Dad will be able to come back home. It depends on the level of care he can get, but there's certainly, I think it's certainly come to the time where we can sell off the machinery. And we've been fixing up a few things. The little Fergie tractor over there, we've got to put the fuel tank back on that. You may remember we took that off a few episodes back, and that's been repaired, so we can put that back on. The other Chamberlain tractor, which is down on the wood pile, has been repaired. We got the starter motor done on that, and that's going again. We can clean out some more of this shed and start reducing the amount of quantity of things in the shed. There's not a lot of scrap metal left. We did that great big skip full of scrap a while back, so we're going to continue to make a pile of scrap metal, but there won't be a lot. I will take some back home. There's nothing left in the barn pretty much. So, and there's still some things sitting around that were sold quite a while ago and still haven't been picked up, so I must chase up the people for that. Let's have a look at the wood pile. So wood has always been important on the farm, not just for keeping warm, but the kitchen stove, as you can see here, actually runs pretty well right through the year because it keeps the hot water service going. It's got a hot water jacket in the back of the stove, and that provides hot water for the house. So it's fairly important, obviously, to keep that going. And you can see out the back gate here, there's a massive pile we've cut up that side. And the tractor has been working hard yesterday. Well, probably not working too hard. It was really just idling and driving the saw bench. But you can see that there's not much left of the pile there. There was a huge pile of timber just there, and we've got a lot of it cut up. There's some big logs down the back. There's some more just against the fence that I can't quite see from here. So it was a great working bee yesterday. We had 2 saw benches going and a chainsaw. They were well into it by the time we turned up. So it's a shame it's kind of that wet today. I'd like to get the rest of this pile finished this week. So we'll see how we go. We're here for a few days, and it's not too muddy up where the wood is, so we should be able to get things going later today again. But you can see the lane itself has quite a lot of water laying on it, and that would be very messy if you tried to drive down there. So it's now Wednesday morning. I filmed the first part on Monday afternoon when we got here, so not a lot happened yesterday. There's been a lot of family discussions about the future and obviously planning. We've been up to see Dad a couple of times. He's going okay at this stage. we still don't have any real concrete results on what's going to happen as we move forward. We did a little bit of cleaning yesterday. We did empty out the machinery shed, which we'll have a look at shortly. I'm in the workshop at the moment. I've got the little heater going because it's still pretty chilly here in the mornings, and just starting to pack some stuff up in the van. I have to go back home tomorrow, so not sure when I'll be back here, whether we do another trip next week. It kind of depends on, you know, how things progress with Dad. Let's go and have a look though at what I'm cleaning up for now. After all, this is the Great Farm Cleanup series, so we better do some cleaning. It is nice and warm in the workshop here with this heater going. We're burning some scrap wood. This area is where I worked on last time I was home and took a lot of plumbing fittings back, so I've been packing up some more, just trying to reduce the quantity of stuff in here. Yeah, not really any decisions to be made here. I'm just cleaning up all the old boxes and tins of hardware and stuff. A lot of this hasn't been touched in years, and there's tins like this. You can clearly see that this isn't a high use tin of parts. I'm not even sure what's in here. That looks like part of an old clamp assembly for clamping furniture, like a sash clamp. We have a little caster, metal caster of something that's a pretty early one, probably 1930s or 40s. This little aluminium pulley has been broken, so that can just go in the scrap metal. Various other pieces of metal off pieces of machinery. These can pretty well all just go in the scrap. They're never going to be used again. That's a little foot valve. That will be brass. So again, I'll just pack a lot of this stuff up. I'll take it home and I'll sort it at home. There will be a lot of scrap metal, but we will find a few pieces that we can sell in amongst it all. So rather than me spend time sorting it here, I'm just boxing it up and I'll take it home and sort it in my shed. A lot more brass fittings under there again. So I'll just work my way under the bench and across the top and the shelves and clean it up. There's another little storage cabinet there. If you remember the last one that I'll picture here, I took that back and gave it a wash up and sold it in the shop the first weekend, and I think I got $60. No, I got $75 for it from memory now, and it sold very quickly. I was a little disappointed. I was nearly going to take it home, but I can't take everything home. That's a nice little storage unit. I will probably take that one home. That will be very useful. Maybe some of the others. We'll see how they go, but they do sell very well through the shop, that sort of stuff. As we walk across the yard, it's still a little muddy underfoot, but the rain has cleared off and the rest of the week is forecast to be reasonably nice weather, so that's good. Coco's still having a ball running around, and Steve, my son, has his dog here, Maggie, and she's been running around as well, so we might see her shortly. So this machinery shed now we've got cleaned out. That's the remainder of the grain that was in that bulk bin that I managed to get the bottom open last time we were here. So I think Ross is just going to get rid of the grain, and the trailer has now gone. Or it's actually out in the lane, but it can go. The tractor starts and runs, and that can be moved whenever it needs to be, and the rest of this machinery shed is nicely cleaned out now. So Ross is able to use this shed to store some of his implements now that he owns the farm, and he can move that tractor whenever he likes. We will sell that at some stage soon, but I'm not in a mad rush to get rid of that one. And I think today I will drag out these things here. We have a grain cleaner made from the screen of an old International header. Don't know if I'm going to get much for that, but it's better than scrap metal. And the Sunshine reaper and binder, that's in pretty good condition, that one. We'll drag that one out. I'm thinking about $500 for it. I'll drag it out, do some photos, and probably even put it back in here. And I'll probably advertise that and see if we can find a buyer, and perhaps arrange it for when I'm home next and it can be picked up, and that'll be something else out of the sheds. Okay, voiceover time now while I do some benching of the firewood. It's just a very simple saw bench, just with a tilt platform, and I'm just cutting up some light timber, old weatherboards. Any scrap timber that's not painted or anything is great firewood because it splits up really nice as kindling, which helps Mum for lighting the kitchen stove. And here's another angle. You can see we just run a flat belt off the back of the old Chamberlain tractor. I've got it running fairly loose at the moment because the join isn't very good and I didn't want to put too much tension on it. It's fine for cutting little stuff like this, but when you're cutting big logs, it does need to be a little bit more tensioned, otherwise it slips on the pulleys. Also the bearings on the old saw bench are quite badly worn. They're not sealed bearings, they're only the old oil feed with an oil hold and probably a bronze bush or something. So got to look after the old equipment, but it does a good job of cutting all this stuff up. And I got through a fair bit of that pile. We didn't worry about doing it all, but we've given Mum a good supply of wood to get through the rest of the winter. Well, that might do today. Let's turn the tractor off. Okay, I reckon that's enough wood cutting for now. The belt's got quite slack. It tends to stretch after it warms up a bit. We spray a bit of belt grip on there so it doesn't slip too much. And it's just slipped it off the pulley. I probably should have disengaged the PDO. But that saw bench, as simple as it is, it does a fantastic job. It's probably not as dangerous as it looks as long as you have your wits about you. You certainly need the earmuffs though, and you certainly need the face shield because I end up with bark chips everywhere and wood chips. They're in my pocket. They're in my socks, so I feel like I need to go and have a shower. But we've cleaned up a lot of wood. Have a look at this. This pile is totally gone, and Steve did an awesome job splitting all that up. It's almost a mountain. So that's a really good mound of wood. That will probably see Mum out as far as her stay on the farm, because she doesn't want to stay here on her own if Dad doesn't come home. I worked away at this pile here. You've got to be very careful of nails. I didn't hit any nails with the blade, which is good. The blade has tungsten teeth on it. If we have a look here, so there's tungsten tips on it, and if you do hit a nail or a bolt, it will break those off, and then you've got to go and get it fixed. So it does a great job. It cuts through all sorts of dirty wood and it stays sharp. There's a bit of green stuff there that probably should dry out a bit longer. We'll split a bit more up here. And I did get some timber out of that pile, but I think a lot of that pile we might end up burning. There's no sense working away here for hours just cutting it up. It makes really good kindling. As you can see over the fence there, it's really easy to split up with a tomahawk, so it's handy for lighting the fire. There's a lot of smaller stuff here for the kitchen fire, and we've got some larger stuff to go in the lounge room fire. So that pile should see us through, certainly through the rest of this winter, don't you think, Coco? I think Coco wins this year's Darwin Awards because as I was cutting and throwing logs over the fence, she just stood there with logs landing all around her. And after a while, I didn't even bother looking. She had to get out of the road. I don't think she got hit. Most of them are only little small bits, but yeah, I'm not sure how entirely clever Coco is. All right, so that will do for the wood cutting for this trip. We've certainly split up and benched all the good stuff, and that will take a bit of worry off Mum's mind because she's forever worried about running out of wood, and it does get pretty cold here in winter and we still have a bit of cold weather to go. So the rest of our time here, I want to get back into the shed, sort out a bit more stuff, pack some things in the van, and just get a bit more organised before we have to go home. And just like that, I'm home. It's Thursday afternoon. Kristen and I just got back about an hour ago. It's took us about 4 hours. It's a big drive from Murtoa over to Nagambie, pretty well right across the centre of Victoria. So that's another trip done. We got all the firewood done. We got the machinery shed cleaned out. I did pack a bit of stuff out of the workshop and I've brought that back to sort out. So we didn't get a lot of quantity in the van, but we did get a fair bit organised. And you know, the latest on Dad is he's still settled in hospital. They're trying to manage his painkillers, and he may well, it looks like he may be moved to another care facility in another town, which is a little bit further and makes it a little bit awkward for Mum. So there's a chance he may not come home to the farm, which is, you know, a little sad. And of course, you know, Dad's got to cope with all this as well as what's going on with his body, and it's, you know, it's not good. But he's very matter of fact about it. He had an accident about 17 years ago and he lost a leg, and he's actually in really a good mindset. You know, he thinks he's had bonus years because he shouldn't have survived the accident. But of course, family are all gathering round and we're giving Mum a lot of support. And there was a lot of us there this week. I didn't get a lot of filming done because of that. I'll most likely be back there next week, so I'll bring you guys along as far as the cleanup goes, and I'll keep you informed. So I hope you're enjoying the journey. It is a journey. Everything I do is a journey, and I may as well bring you guys along with me. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.